And let's bring up CatBoy, the one and only CatBoy.
All right, CatBoy.
Oh, yes.
CatBoy. CatBoy.
CatBoy.
When he gets in a phone booth, it's just to hide from the public, not to
Yes. I'm just having a crying fit. I'm ashamed of myself. Anyway, you know, I hate being bipolar. It's great.
That's good.
Okay, now I want to start off with a news story. This is a really heartwarming news story. I love this thing. It starts off as a heartbreaking story, but it does have a happy ending eventually. Boy, you people thought Doc Grun had it bad. We know about Doc Grun's terrible commute in Washington. Well, they just aired a story that went viral out of Detroit about this gentleman. He's 56-year-old James Robinson, and he has to walk to work every single day 21 miles. That's 5 hours it takes him to get to work. When he goes home, he only sleeps for about 6 hours, and he only has 2 hours to himself every single day. Now, they aired this on television, and he said that his car broke down 10 years ago, and he only makes $10 an hour at a factory. And I thought, well, you know, the real story is there's some factories that are actually still open in Detroit, and the pay is worse than Canada's minimum wage. But a college student by the name, and I'm probably not pronouncing this properly, Edwin Lee. If someone else says that's not right, you're probably right, because I can't find it written down anywhere. I just heard it. Edwin Lee started a crowdfunding program to raise money to buy Mr. Robinson a car. Thank goodness. Now, so far, they raised $57,000, and he says he's close to his goal. Close? What are you buying, Alexis? He's 56 years old. Good Lord, buy him 2 Toyotas and just call it a day already, would you? I mean, by the time you get, whatever this goal is, he's 56 years old. Whatever this goal is, by the time you reach it, he's going to be retired, especially if you're saving up for a Bentley. You know, and I do understand.
300,000. Sorry.
300,000?
300,000.
Yeah, Bentley is. Oh, that's what a Bentley costs. That's not how much money they raise. I thought, good Lord, if he's raised 300,000, just pay for him to retire, and he doesn't have to walk anywhere. You know. Anyway, the last time I walked that far, some girl texted me to come over, and she said no one was home. So I walked over, and no one was there. So I stole her bike. Anyway, did anyone here, Harper Lee is releasing a book. I think Lauren was just talking about that. Yes, Lauren, she hasn't done anything. She has not written any books since To Kill a Mockingbird came out. When did it come out? 1960? 59? So it's been something like 60 years. And I heard recently Harper Lee had spoken to J.K. Rowling, and she said, so, I heard you once took 3 years off just to publish the next book in your series. That's very cute. She spent about 60. Anyway, let's move on. Lauren, I believe, was talking. No, it wasn't Lauren. It was Roger 99. He was talking about the Kardashians and the way they carry on. I got to tell you something. Have you ever watched a movie with your parents where you come to this really uncomfortable erotic love scene in the movie? Like geez, I forgot that Wolf of Wall Street was Martin Scorsese's dabble in the softcore porn. You know, like my mom is laughing her ass off at Jonah Hill's rubber penis, and I'm just sitting there going, oh man, I didn't need to see that. You want to know what's worse than that? Sitting around watching the Kardashians with your mom. That is worse. Take my word for it. My mom spends her days in the kitchen playing Candy Crush on her iPad, while the TV is always on TMZ, which always has the Kardashians on constant rotation. One episode, they followed the men around a little, and they get very little coverage, so I imagine the men just do whatever they can to make the most out of it. So you got these 3 himbos sitting around in a room, looking bored, and then one of them starts the conversation with, and I'm not kidding, so I was masturbating the other day. Who the hell starts a conversation with, so I was masturbating? Can you imagine what it would be like if a comedian comes up here and that's how they started their routine? I was masturbating the other day, and good God. And what I thought, the part that really struck me was I was the only person in the kitchen and on the TV that reacted with any incredulity. Like, my mom is just sitting there in Candy Crush going, yep, Frankie's just pulling his butt again, boring, move on to the next bit already. Like, this is just something that just happens all the time. So the other 2 guys that are in the room, they just have these bored looks on their face. But one of them is shaking his head like he's following the conversations like, yeah, we've been there. And then he jumps in and he goes, have you ever had that problem where your ring finger starts cramping up? And he points at him and goes, yeah, I've been there. That happens to me all the time, right? And then the third guy who finally speaks up, apparently he's a fitness guru or something like that, and he jumps in and he goes, well, were you at the gym earlier that day? And he said, yes. Well, if you're going to jerk off all day after going to the gym, you have to drink or you're going to cramp up. And then the whole thing becomes this really, goes from a bizarre conversation to this really twisted public service announcement. Like, remember those old G.I. Joe cartoons? Like, G.I. Joe, hello, children, I'm General Hawk. Remember, if you're going to masturbate after strenuous activity, always remember to hydrate properly to prevent cramping. And if you're not sure you're doing it properly, be sure to ask your local minister and parishioner for assistance. They'll be glad to help. G.I. Joe. And knowing is half the battle. You know, long time ago, I've confessed to this many times before. I used to work in a porn store, and we always thought that the dialogue in porn films was just ridiculously bad. And now I realize it was actually brilliant. Because people who are rich, beautiful, and have sex all day long, that's how they actually talk. In one way, you could think of pornos as their uncensored documentaries about people who live in California.
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
Anyway, back to my mom. My mom watches these shows. I don't know why she gets into that. Last weekend, we were watching the Super Bowl, and with my parents, my mom said, wow, this is a really big fuss over 25 cents. I asked my mom, what the hell are you talking about? Mom said, well, you know, they lost the toss at the start of the game, and the rest of the game, the fans keep saying, get the quarterback, get the quarterback.
Oh.
Anyway, I got a funny joke for you. Lauren, I'm going to need a little room because I'm going to have to do something here, and I don't want to
Okay, let me get off the stage.
Get crazy with you.
Get off the
don't
stage.
Want to do anything crazy and knock you off the stage because I have to do something here. I got a little animation.
All right, I'm coming off the stage. There you go.
All right, now I got a joke for you. Yeah, I know. I don't want to do that.
Upstage time. Upstage.
I don't want to do that.
Go ahead. You got it.
I got to do this
all about
crazy
me.
animation. This is the last thing I'm going to do. I do have some more jokes, but I'm going to save them for next week because they are Valentine's jokes anyway. I'm going to save them. But anyway, this is a joke. Do you remember way back in the 19th century, they used to cut down trees on the redwood forest over on the west coast around British Columbia and California. And there was this foreman that was looking to hire people in British Columbia way back in the 19th century. And the Chinese were actually coming over across the Pacific at the time when they were looking for work. And so for the very first time in his life, this foreman sees a Chinaman, comes up, and he's looking for a job as a lumberjack. And he's very skeptical as to how good a Chinaman would be because, you know, from his point of view, they're very tiny people. So Chinaman, he comes up and he says, I want a job as a lumberjack. And he doesn't even have an axe. And the foreman says, well, what the heck can you do? I mean, can you chop down a tree? He says, yep, I can chop down a tree and I don't need an axe to do it. And the foreman says, all right, prove it. There's a tree over there. It's only 6 inches at the base. Not a very big tree. Show me how you're going to chop it down. And the Chinaman, he goes up with his kung fu and he goes like this. Hoo-wah! Right? Just like that. Yeah! Knocks the tree down in one swipe. Perfect, beautiful, clean cut. Pow! Boom! Tree just gets destroyed. That was impressive, but the foreman still's not convinced because they have really big trees out in the West Coast. So he points to a much bigger tree that's got like a 3-foot base. He says, how on earth are you going to knock down a tree like that if you're not going to use an axe, right? Well, this guy was a kung fu master. You know, he taught people kung fu. Like, he was the best in the world at what he did. And this is what he did. I'm going to show you the animation for that, right? He gets down in the stance, and he's looking at the tree. And then he goes, woo-wah-da! Like that, right? The tree explodes into pieces. The pieces fly up in the air, and they all land on the ground in perfectly neat little stacks, bits of lumber all over the place. The foreman is just flabbergasted. He said, absolutely, you're hired. I can't believe it. You're like a miracle worker. Where on earth did you learn how to cut down trees like that? And Chinaman says, the Gobi Forest. The foreman goes, Gobi Forest? I never heard of the Gobi Forest. Don't you mean the Gobi Desert? And Chinaman says, why do you think I'm here looking for a job? Ba-dum-ching. And that's all I got for tonight, everybody.
That's great. That's fantastic.